What's up, y'all? Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. Well, I'm out here in one of my orchards over here. This one is going to be a serious mountain orchard. Now, we got all kinds of stuff going on. These guys are going to need some attention as we approach into the fall, but we're not quite there yet. I'm going to be doing an application today. Wow, look at that fig. Doesn't that look great? And it's only a few years old, just like everything else up here. Folks, we're going to be doing an application today that, frankly, I can't even tell you what it is, or they're probably going to give me my third strike and then close down this channel altogether. So with that said, let's get hopping and popping. By the way, anybody wanting one of these ballin' shirts, check out the link down below. Eric Sider makes them all, and they are ballin'. Everybody's asking about them. So let's get hopping and popping, because like I said, I can't even mention what this application is, or I might very well get the last strike here. But I will say that it started off with a 500-foot roll of number 10 solid. This is THHN wire. You're not going to be able to find it at Lowe's or Home Depot, but you can go to an electrical supply house and they'll get you squared away. As you can tell, I got a whole coil of this solid number 10 wire, okay? I rolled it out, stripped it, cut it off, and here it is. We got a bunch of rings that are in accordance with what we call the royal cubit, which is about 20 inches, about 20 and a half inches, a little bit more than that, but more accurately, 20.6 or 20.8. So you could say this is somewhere in between. And I made a little circle out of it with a hole in it, as you can see right there. Okay? Now, that's where I'm starting, because the method I'm going to be using today, I've never done before. In fact, I've never in the past felt the need to do it before. I guess it could be arguable as to whether or not I need to use it now, because as you can see, this tree is only a few years old and we pulled 400 pounds of peaches off of it this year. Just this majestic peach right here. But here's what I'm considering. I know that they are dropping things from the sky, and frankly, I'm beyond caring as to who calls me whatever. Conspiracy this, whatever. Look, I know they're dropping junk from the sky. We can see it in the effects in our animals. And worse yet, we can see it in ourselves, whether it's respiratory issues that happen every single day. And it seems to have gotten worse ever since January. In fact, I've documented a lot of it. So as these things get crazier, what we do know is that we have high levels of barium, cadmium, strontium, aluminum, which ain't supposed to be falling from the sky, you dig? We got all these things falling down right now. And I'm thinking, okay, as this gets worse, do we have mitigation strategies? Absolutely. We've talked about it before, that soil savior product out there on the piece of land that we know was polluted. Despite being chemtrailed every single day, it still cleaned it all up along with our compost extract. So I'm trying to employ every single method that might move that ball a little bit further along. So that brings me into can't say the name of it, but I think you know how to fill in the blank. So reached out to my man over at Cultivate Elevate, Matt, and reached out to a couple of other people that are experts at this sort of thing. And I'm not, admittedly. So they recommended, a lot of people out there, some of them more than 100 years ago, people like Christoflo and a number of others. And there was a guy who wrote a book. It's popping up on your screen right now. I'm not going to say it for obvious reasons. Anyway, he wrote that book. Read the book a couple of times. Michelle read the book. My son read the book. And I'm thinking, okay, all the other information out there that I've gotten concerning this method, I don't know what's legit and what isn't. So I'm just going to go out here and give it a shot. Now, there are ways to use antennas in this system. Problem is, I live in the mountains. And when you look at some of the phenomena that happens when you use the antenna system, it's probably not the best thing for me to employ living where I do, because these antennas are by no means going to be the tallest structure around here. So I can't necessarily do that. But this other method, using coils, I can flip to the page in the book and show you where I got it, but I can't say it. Using these coils, there's a number of ways in which you can go about it. Well, one way is to take them and situate them right at the base. I'm going to open it up. Now you want to have a little bit of an opening on there, okay? I'm going to get it around here. You want to have it right at the base, and the opening I want to be north, which by the way is that way, okay? So I'm going to make sure Already got my compass out and make exactly sure where it is. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Here's another way of doing it, is that you can find a branch that's on the south side of your tree, which just happens to be right here, and I can put it right there. Well, the wind's probably going to blow it off, so I'll take a zip tie and kind of hold it into place, okay? That's another way of doing it. The third way of doing it is surrounding your tree with it and angling it at a 30-degree angle, facing north, with the opening facing north. So it would kind of, from your perspective, it'd be kind of like that, okay? I'm using my calibrated eyeball. That's about 30 degrees. Anyway, that's one way to do it, but it has to be suspended. I'm going to omit that. Now you can combine all three. In fact, there's a fourth way. Let's say this tree was a little sapling and I was going to put it in there. And a lot of you are going to be planting trees right now because y'all pay attention to what we're talking about. It's coming on fall and you're thinking, okay, I need to get my bare roots in the ground. Another way to do it is to take this same ring, stick it below the soil. So let's say you could do all four of them. So you'd have one below the soil, one at the soil level, one elevated, and one on the south side of the tree like so. So you can do all of them. But I'm only going to do two today. And I'm going to do the one on the south side, and I'm also going to do the one around the base there, okay? Now, a lot of people have asked, because I mulch my trees maybe once a year if I do any mulch at all. Now, would I have to? I got comfrey. I could just mulch with comfrey, and that'd be cool. But I want to make sure I get this in there, and I want it covered up with some really, really awesome stuff. So, without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get my copper trowel. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and clear out that base and find a room for this. All right, so it's really this simple. I may not have to move much at all. Now, in accordance to the work of geniuses like the great Victor Schauberger, another guy that Matt over at Cultivate Elevate told me about, I've gotten into his work and I've been blown away, folks. Trust me, I'm going to be the subject matter expert before this is all said and done. I guarantee that. The benefit of using copper in your soil as opposed to some of the other things out there. Now, I'm not sure if they're gonna, man, it's amazing how easily this cuts through the soil as opposed to using just regular steel. So I'm just gonna kind of move some of that away, because when I had the sheep up here, they kind of trampled out some of the stuff that was over here. And frankly, it's one of the things that kind of got lost in what I was doing around here. Now, where is my copper ring? Oh, right here. So I got enough of that kind of, I really don't even have to do all this. But I will say that by using this copper, just like Schauberger talks about, and like Matt over at Cultivate Elevate talks about, it's amazing how little work it requires when you use copper, or even bronze for that matter. So I know north is that way. Take my opening, stick it around here, and I'm going to position it down low right there. Okay, that's a royal cubit. Now we're going to be covering a lot of things in this video and what I usually go through every time fall comes around. So let me go get the other secret ingredient. Okay, got my ring down there. Now I got a cup. Yeah, I got me some Seagram's gin. Everybody got their cups, but they ain't chipped in. Actually, this is basalt, or in this case particularly, volcanic rock dust. I want something that's high in that's really paramagnetic, okay? So I'm gonna put a ring around here. There's a bunch of different ways you can go about doing this. Check out the work of people like Schauberger and a number of others that are into electric. This will make all the, in fact, I need to do a video all on its own, just talking about this stuff and its benefit for you and your garden and everywhere else. This is one of the secret ingredients. If you're checking out my Patreon, you know that this is one of the secret ingredients that I put in my compost. Now let's talk about the next thing. I grow this comfrey for a reason. There's a reason why we sell it at the website. There's a reason why I absolutely love this stuff. And we also sell the rice knives as well. I don't have to go far to get the fertility I want. And this stuff's going to be dying back anyway here before too long. But this is a dynamic accumulator. I could go ahead and get that over there, but I don't need to. That is a dynamic accumulator, taking all those wonderful minerals that are down deep in the earth, depositing it in its leaves to the benefit of this tree. That's step number 2. All right, cardboard. This, it does a number of things. Number 1, it's going to suppress all the weeds and the other things I don't want around it, but also it's my barometer to tell me how alive my soil really is. But here's a little method I created a while back. Okay, so I just cut it straight down one side, and all I'm going to do at this point is cut a Y in it, like so. Cut it along the top, and I'm going to fold this back on itself. And here's how I use it. Let me put my knife over here. This I put down first, and it goes on like so. So if I'm on a steep hill like I am right now, I'll make sure the opening is on the downward side, so it will not slide. Oops, caught on something here. There we go. So it kind of holds everything in place like so. And now all I'm going to do, and I get asked this question all the time, how much cardboard do I use? Folks, check this out. I actually want to situate it if I can, kind of like so. Kind of interlock it wherever you can. I've gone, if your soil's alive, that cardboard won't be there very long. But in this particular case, I'm going to put so much on there, it's going to make your head spin. Because I know this soil is so alive that it's not going to be there in just a matter of weeks. And everybody's always wondering, hey man, how are you out here doing this farm work in flip-flops and wearing those booty chokers? Well, these are tan through shorts. Even though there's not a whole lot of sun right now, I'm trying to get as much of it as I possibly can these days, okay? So I'm doing the polar opposite of what everybody tells you, pretty much in every single part of my life. And so far it seems to be panning out pretty well. There's cardboard. I could even add more if I wanted to. In fact, let me go ahead and get some. Next time you get all those Amazon boxes or whatever the case may be that you got in there and it's starting to drive you crazy because it's taking up too much of your garage, remember, you don't have a too much cardboard problem. You got a lack of mulch problem. So everything's ready to rock and roll. Now, I got these aged wood chips from a local college, okay? There's probably 1,000 cubic yards of it over there, and nobody uses it for anything. I've asked before, and they don't care if I take it all. So I can go out here, if you got some stuff that's freshly chipped, that's fine. But this stuff is 2/3, a lot of it, 2/3 of the way of becoming compost anyway. So let's figure out how many buckets it takes just to do this one tree. And frankly, I don't even care how much it takes. There you have it. That's 12 buckets. Now all I'm going to do is pull this away from that graft unit a little bit. There we go. Now, I know it's hard for you to tell from your perspective, but that's roughly about 1 foot high. How fantastic is that? Now, folks, I want you to think about something. We go out here, we do our annual gardens, and that's wonderful. It is. But like I said, on this one tree alone, I got 400 pounds of peaches off of there. And this is pretty much all of the maintenance I got to do in a year. Notwithstanding some of the things I'm going to have to do in terms of pruning, but in terms of time, I put in, before it's all said and done, I might have put in an hour per year at the most on this one tree. And I get 400 pounds of peaches, which are going at $6 a pound right now for organic peaches. Not a bad deal at all, huh? So anyway, think about those things. Think about some of those perennial systems you can put in. And this majestic peach, everybody that's had them said it is the shiznit. All right, now let's do the next part. Okay, remember we got one of these guys down below. Now I'm going to do the same thing up top, but this time I'm going to have the opening down like so. And I'm just going to take my handy dandy zip tie. Unless you have another clever way of doing this, I don't know of any other way to keep this thing in place. Now, none of them really address this, but there you go. So, and like I said, you could take one of those, you could angle it at a 45 right here. If it's a younger tree and before you planted it, you could have put one down below. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. I've never done this before, but judging by some of the people, and I know a guy who works at an orchard and he is sworn by it. you know, and told me that it worked out really, really doggone well for him. So I'm looking forward to see what it's going to do for me, especially in this era where every single day we're being bombarded by something else. And by the way, it took about 12 buckets just to cover this one tree to give me a mulch ring that I'm proud of. So, and I kid you not, by the time winter's over, that mulch ring will be ground level. That's how alive this soil has become. That's what happens when you partner with your allies and you do all the things that nature loves. So here we are, you move one step towards nature, nature's gonna take 20 of them back to you. All right, y'all, it's starting to rain right now, and it looks like I'm gonna have to put the brakes on this part of it, but look, y'all, if you need any of the comfrey I was using here, you need the rice knives or anything we have, go check us out at the website. Until next time, stay alert, stay alive.